Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, 1. The FantasyFootballTips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliarno.
Hi, you're listening to FantasyFootballTips.co, the podcast in association with Premier Punt, the home of daily fantasy football betting. Quigliarno is with me, my name's Mills, and we move on into game week 3.
We do. Still not picked up, has it? It's not kicked off yet for me.
Not quite, and there's still a lot of panic out there on Twitter and social media, and people commenting on the website as well. Lots of people talking about wildcards this week, Quigliarno, and I know in our own little WhatsApp group that we talk, you've talked about your own use of the personal wildcard. I'm not sure I believe you though. That's what I would say.
Well, I'm out there playing chess with a lot of checkers players, you see. So whatever I say, that gets people panicking. People don't play their normal game when I'm around. So it's all mind games. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. We'll see on Saturday.
We will indeed, won't we? Okay, so let's just quickly recap game week 2. What went right for us and kind of what went wrong and what went wrong for lots of people as well. So I think the first thing we probably need to talk about is Man City and the fact that they turned up against Chelsea and blew them to pieces.
And we've got none of those in our team.
Absolutely. I think actually last week on the podcast I did say that Aguero may score a goal. I think on the record I said he won't score more than one. Thankfully, he wasn't quite sharp enough to take those chances, but he could have had a hat-trick in the first 25 minutes. Thankfully for us, he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Silva at City is somebody who's worrying me, not owning him. Most players are still sticking by Hazard, waiting for him to kick in, and there's only so much money you can spend everywhere. Aguero's price has risen because everyone's sticking him in, and I think that's something we'll be talking about ourselves in a minute.
Okay, so but just a word on Chelsea then. Obviously, going away to Man City aside, they've not shone yet, have they? They don't look like the team they were at the end of last season. A lot's been said about their pre-season and the fact that even Mourinho himself is saying that Chelsea aren't going to be back and at it and probably until the end of September. Is that just him sort of setting things up? Is he kind of just saying, the team is he giving his team an excuse?
He's a man from the same. He's cut from the same cloth as me, the special one, and he's doing anything he can to deflect the tension away from that team. Lower expectations for the press, talking about all this doctor load of rubbish. It's all part of his plan, and I think in house they'll be doing things to sort that out. And they've just signed Pedro this second that's come through. I think that's almost like two fingers to the other teams in the league as well, because they have sort of nicked him off of United. They did it to Spurs when they signed Willian. He does things at the right times, and I'm going to stick with Chelsea. I know that they're going to come back and they'll be strong, and they will still be up there.
Okay, so just quickly then, I just want to touch on the Hazard one. He's obviously an expensive player. Sanchez is around the same price. Silva, who you just touched on, is slightly less, but he's out of that 8.5 bracket. He's in there at 10. That's kind of almost its own separate group of players, isn't it? Hazard, Sanchez, and Silva. Are you still sticking with Hazard above those other two? Is that what you're saying there?
Well, I think Aguero is somebody. He's like your default player.
Yeah,
pretty much. If ever you're struggling for a captain choice, you're like, it doesn't matter. Then I'll just put it on Aguero.
That's right.
And that's regardless of fixtures. So Aguero's got to go in there. Hazard again for me. I thought I was backing him to be knocking into like the Messi, Ronaldo sort of regions this year, and he hasn't done that. He is still pure class though, so I will be sticking by him. But it's an easy swap if I want to get rid of him. I think I'll go for somebody like Sanchez or Silva, depending on what sort of balance I'm trying to get to the team and what fixtures they've got. Okay,
and then Liverpool, a good result against Bournemouth, didn't blow them away. Bournemouth, did actually play quite well in that game. But they go away to Arsenal this week. Is that good run going to continue? I mean, we're seeing a lot of points coming from the defenders, aren't we? And I know you were a big fan of Gomez. I think he went in your team this week, didn't he?
Well,
I know he was in there before, but he's actually gone into the
start.
starting 11.
Yeah.
Are we expecting a clean sheet against
I don't
Arsenal?
actually know. I think that there's going to be goals in that. I think Ozil will have another field day.
What, against Liverpool?
I think he will. I think there's chances there.
Okay.
Arsenal still haven't sorted out that back line either. They're still leaking goals. I had Mertesacker. What a waste of time that was.
But yeah, but on the flip side of that, Liverpool have actually looked pretty solid at the back.
Better. They definitely look better, but Bournemouth still had chances. They sort of
They had the ball in the net as well, and you know they were unfortunate really that they weren't given that goal. Okay, so looking on to this week then, Quigliano, let's talk about our team, the Fantasy Football Tips team in our FPL league. We're sitting in around 350th place at the moment.
Where all the good managers, all the top managers will find themselves in and around that sort of status there. And I'm telling you that now, I'm backing it. Okay, all the better managers that have got the strong players in there, they're just holding, they've got the cards close to their chest, knowing that eventually these wild card players that are doing well will eventually fade out and all the top dogs will start.
So you're saying experience is key here. So an experienced FPL manager who knows what they're doing, who's stands by their decisions, is going to outlast those that kind of jump on the bandwagon from week to week.
Yes.
Okay, so we purposely didn't make a change last week to our team to allow us to have the second transfer, didn't we?
Yeah,
so we got 2 free transfers this week.
We were thinking it was going to be Aguero going in this week, or potentially holding out to like game week 4. But the fact that he scored against Chelsea and had a lot of chances, I think it was time to get him in straight away. So he had to come in. Kane got the chop, even though they've got Leicester. That's a good fixture for Spurs. The only bandwagon we have jumped on, and this is purely for a price rise thing, is Mahrez from Leicester. He's taking penalties. They're scoring goals.
And actually, he looks pretty decent, doesn't he?
He does look decent, and they've got the fixtures. Okay, it's a calculated decision.
And who did we drop for those? So we took out Kane.
And you've challenged me there, and I can't actually remember who we did take out.
Well, currently in our midfield, we've got Ibe, we've got Hazard, we've kept Depay, of course, and Theo Walcott, who kind of destroyed us really at the start of the season with him not starting. And
old Chris Novak is probably paying the price there, isn't he?
Chris Novak. I like the fact that you remember Chris. So decent midfield, I'd say. I mean, the one that I would like to throw in there again, go back to is Memphis Depay at Manchester United.
I'd reckon a lot of people have transferred him out early.
Yeah, for expecting massive things in the first 2 weeks, and it hasn't happened. He had a good chance, didn't he, against Villa, but didn't take it. Yeah, lots of people taking him out, but then the Champions League against Club Brugge, and he scores 2 goals and gets an assist. Is that the kickstart that he needs? He goes back into Old Trafford this week at home to Newcastle.
Ooh, for you gamblers out there, I would be tipping a little captain shout there. If you're looking to maybe just make that differential shout, because I think most people will go Aguero this week, Aguero or Rooney, I'd throw a Depay shout in. I
mean, you say Rooney. I don't think anyone's going to be captaining Wayne Rooney this week after the start he's made to the season.
Loves a goal against Newcastle.
Okay, and I'll take that, but he hasn't scored in 10 games for United. That's a worry,
That is a concern.
It is a concern. Now, home to Newcastle, I take on board what you're saying, but I quite like what you're saying about Depay there as a potential captain choice.
You are listening to Mills and Quigliano on the FantasyFootballTips.co podcast. Sponsored by Premier Punt. All your fantasy Premier League tips in one juicy little podcast. Get in touch at www.fantasyfootballtips.co.
Are you not forgetting something there, Mills? Not an apology this week, because you've not sabotaged me at any point.
Well, I think you'll find, Quigliano, that I've pretty much left everything to you this week.
You have, so I appreciate that. We'll probably do better.
No, I am forgetting something. You're absolutely right. Talking about Depay there, weren't we? Our friends, our sponsors, Premier Punt. So go along, fantastic sport.
Business and friends,
and a fantastic website. And actually, really, really like the system they've got set up there. PremierPunt.com. We said last week they're going to give us a player on their website to discount each week, and they've given us a fantastic one this week. It is, again, a Manchester United player, and it's Depay. So if you go to PremierPunt.com and you want to get some differential on your team, they don't advertise this price reduction, but they're telling us so we can tell you. So head over to PremierPunt.com. If you set up a team, take on someone else, take on a mate or take on a complete stranger, but you're playing for cash prizes, you can get Depay cheaper. I think it's £2 million cheaper than he would normally cost, and they're not going to advertise that fact. So just a little insight for you there.
Lovely. Just walking in Memphis there. Lovely.
Lovely. So
a share, I would say.
That's right, Quigley. Going to get a little rendition.
What, do you believe in life after love, Mills?
Is that the lyric?
No, that's just a question. That is a classic Cher song. So.
I love it. No, I don't even know how to answer that question. So
yes or no? It's a yes or no question.
Let's stick strictly to fancy football
strictly
tips.
Comes answering, yes.
So coming back to the fancy football tips, I can't even say it now.
We need to discuss who the tips actually are.
Yes.
Probably what people are like. Thank God. 15 minutes in and they're actually talking tips.
That's right. So we're going to bring back some of our old features, so some of our old kind of taglines.
We slagged them off last week and now we've decided that actually we're bringing them back.
Basically we can't think of anything better. So so we're going to do the Gary of the Week.
Gary Busey of the week.
Gary Busey, the guaranteed player, the guaranteed performer for Game Week 3. So Quigliano, I'm coming to you. Who is your guaranteed performer for Game Week 3?
Saint Pele.
Pella from Southampton away to Watford, who are, to be fair, they've looked all right. They're scoring goals, but they're shipping goals.
All the promoted teams have looked decent. However, that fixtures wise, that's the one that stands out really. Even the top teams have kind of got tough fixtures. Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea go away to a tough West Brom team, and I still don't trust Man United. So. The fixtures there for me aren't guaranteed.
I mean, Southampton had a very poor game week too, didn't they? They lost to Everton, who looked much improved. Are we going to see I think personally we're going to see them bounce back here. I think it's going to be, Koeman will have them ready to go from the off, and I think it'll be a fast-paced game. And I think an early goal in that game for Southampton could result in a goal fest there. Really do.
Slightly goalfest.
Hashtag it. I mean, slightly concerned with Mane, the interest from Manchester United, and that might upset and disrupt them. Obviously, Southampton play tonight as well in Europe, but they're at home. But the game's not till Sunday, so I don't think that'll affect them too much. Sunday afternoon. I like that show, Quigliano. So I'm going to come to you for our Xabi Alonso, the long shot.
The long shot of the week. There's a bit of a discussion over who this should be, but he's a top player anyway, so I'm not sticking my neck on the line, but I fancy it. Christian Eriksen needs to come back to life. He needs to regain that fancy football dominance that he has for like one game week that makes me put him in, and then the barren spell that follows after that. But they've got Leicester. They haven't really kicked off against Spurs, and I think like my FPL season, it's going to kick off this week. So Christian Eriksen is the long shot.
And again, like we said, Leicester they are scoring, but they're conceding goals as well. So I kind of go with you on that then. So Delia Smith, where are you? Where's our player that's not performing?
Well, you've talked about him already. It's Rooney. He's got the award. Okay, probably go around his house and deliver that to him. Just let him know you've won the Delia of the week. Where are you, Rooney? Show yourself.
So
let's be having you.
We want Wayne Rooney to show up this week, particularly because he's in our team. So that'd be nice. Is that it then, Quigliano?
Well, I don't think that's enough.
That's not enough. Okay.
I think if you're tuning into this,
as 1,500 people do each week,
didn't you want to shout out to some people that were baying for the podcast?
Oh well, a friend of the show, Lockie Brown. He's been on Twitter today. He was panicking. He was actually panicking that this podcast might not go out. There's not a podcast this week. Sorry, Lockie, I don't know where you're from. I don't know your accent. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't try and imitate it. But really upset. Really panicking. Really kind of worrying about the podcast. So, hi to Lockie. We're sorry. We are slightly late this week. We try and do it on a Wednesday. We've had a busy week, haven't we, Quigliano? You've got a busy weekend coming up.
A little bit nervous, might sense it in the voice.
Certainly some nerves there. We're going to the home of football, aren't we, this weekend?
We are off to Barcelona.
Barcelona for a very special event.
It is the Quigliano Stag.
He's finally sort of been beaten into submission.
He has. The sword's been put away.
So we might
reference that however you want to think of it. It's been put back in its sheath again. Don't know if that's the right thing to be discussing, but yeah, Stag Do coming up. So a little bit nervous, but more tips was where we were going with this. Okay, and I'm going to throw out some quick fire players to watch for this week. Houlihan from Norwich. I was saying to you last week we should stick him in, and he got the assist. They've got Stoke. I fancy that. Shaqiri, quality player, good abroad. Want to see how he adapts, but somebody who needs to relaunch his career. Mm-hmm. So the 2 players there.
I want to shout out to Andre Ayew at Swansea, and I also want to shout out
his Twitter handle. Andre Ayew at Swansea.
I realised I said Andre Ayew so fast that people might not actually have understood what I was saying. So sorry about that. And then Gomes as well. I think they're playing Sunderland away this week, and I'm sorry, Sunderland have been woeful. They've been absolutely woeful, conceding 7 goals in the first 2 games. And they're games that most teams would be looking to win. You know, the teams that they've played against. Swansea, on the other hand, have started very, very strongly. They look very well organised, and actually I think Gomes looks like a good shout for the season. As long as he can keep fit, I think he will deliver, and he will get goals, and he will get points for managers. I really like Gomes for this week.
No talk of Siggy. You're forgetting the FPL god.
Yeah, and of course, and he's there, but do like those other 2 over him at the moment.
I quite like Montero as well, just to chip in on that. But I will say, however, Mr. Lens, living life through a lens, although he's in a shocking Sunderland team, has come up with 2 assists for me. So just a little shout out, a little pat on the back. I know he's probably tuning in.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Okay, Quigliano, I've really enjoyed it.
They can't be training anyway because they're useless.
They certainly can't. I really enjoyed the podcast today, as always, Quigliano, and we will be back next week. Hopefully, you will be with us too, if you survive Barcelona.
Well, museums. What's going to go wrong in a museum?
Oh dear. Okay, so we're pretty much finished there, Quigliano. If people do want to get in touch, obviously you can go to fantasyfootballtips.co, and you can find us on Twitter at FPL_TheSource. And don't forget to check out our site sponsors, premierpunt.com. It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. Just quick pleasure, sorry. Didn't you say you spotted somebody else called The Source on there?
I did, yeah. It was they kind of... they might have been imitating us, I don't know. But they changed the spelling of it. It was sauce as in like tomato sauce.
Thoughts on that?
Well, nothing.
Worried, intimidated that somebody's onto you?
What do you mean?
Well, they're trying to steal your identity.
Well, no, my identity is a very closely guarded secret.
That's all we need to say on it. Then I thought you might attack this person, but you've obviously bottled it. You're obviously scared. So.
I would never attack a fellow FPL pundit or source or anything like that until unless they started doing that to me.
What if he was big?
Are you trying?
What if he was bigger than you?
You're making a big deal. You're making a big deal out of this, Quigley. I'm actually starting to think it might be you.
It's not, and you never know. You want to get yourself to the Blog Awards, don't you? I'm sure you've talked about that.
Yeah, I'm actually very upset that the Blog Awards, Quigley, we did talk about that. They've taken away the Fantasy Football Blog Award, but there is a podcast award, so we will be hopefully going for that. And there's a football podcast award, so that's a bit off yet.
Is there an award ceremony? Will it be free drink?
I don't know if it's free drink, but there is an award ceremony. Yes.
So you just got to get us.
Yeah, it's at the the football museum in Manchester.
Okay.
As you can see, I'm literally pulling this information from the dark recesses of my brain. It's not high on the agenda at the moment.
Okay.
Glad we brought that up then, Quigliano, yeah?
Yeah, feel free to cut that out if you need to.
I'm sure everyone's really excited about that. But anyway, we'll be back next week. Go to the YouTube. I can't even speak now, Quigliano. I'm that excited about your stag do. Go to YouTube, check us out. If you search for Fantasy Premier League Podcast, we're right up there at the top. Or just do that on Google. Sign up to the YouTube channel. And fantasyfootballtips.co is where it's at. See you next week.
Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, The FantasyFootballTips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliarno.